Good afternoon. I hereby call the March 7th, 2024 zoning administrator meeting to order. My name is Levi Hill, and I'll be serving as zoning administrator for today's meeting. Ms. Barrera, will you please announce staff present and remind the public how they can participate in the meeting?
Sure. As mentioned, we have our planning manager, Levi Hill, serving as zoning administrator. We have our senior associate planner, Chris Schmidt, and we have myself, recording secretary, Eric Cabrera. Information on participating in this meeting and providing public comment, including remotely by Zoom or telephone, is on this meeting's agenda, which is online at isearchmonterey.org. Remote commenters will be muted until it's their turn to speak, and a timer will be shown on the screen. If you're connected on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. In the chambers, we recommend keeping phones and devices muted to prevent audio interference with the meeting. Thank you for participating in your city government.
Thank you. I'll first open up the consent agenda. Item 2, the consideration of the December 21st, 2023 meeting minutes. Ms. Barrera, are there any members of the public online who wish to speak on this item?
We currently have 0 attendees online.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public in the chambers who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none. I was present at the December 21st meeting and I have reviewed the draft minutes and I had no edits. I will approve the December 21st, 2024 ZA meeting minutes as presented. Moving on, I'll now open the meeting to public comments for items not on the agenda. Again, this is for items that are not on today's agenda. Are there has anyone joined us online?
There are still no attendees online.
Okay. Any members of the public in the chambers who'd like to speak on an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to item number 3. Consider 182 El Dorado Street use permit application UP 240014 to allow conversion of an existing commercial office to single-family dwelling and construction of a new garage. Applicant Safwat Malik, Enviro International Incorporated, property owner Randall A. Wilcox Trust. This is in the office and professional zoning district with an emergency shelter overlay, commercial general plan land use designation, and exempt from CEQA requirements per Article 19, Section 15303, Class 3. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, thank you, Zoning Administrator Hill. My name is Chris Schmidt. I'm a senior associate planner for the city, and I've been working with the applicant on this project. So again, to reiterate, we're looking at a use permit for conversion of an existing office space to a single-family dwelling, as well as construction of a garage. The staff recommendation is that the zoning administrator adopt a resolution approving the use permit. Just some background about the site. It is, as the title mentioned, zoned COES, which is the city's commercial office district with an emergency shelter zoning overlay district. It has a general plan designation of commercial, and it is located in the Cass Street commercial office area, adjacent to Cass Street, and it's bound by El Dorado Street and Davis Lane. So the project description involves conversion of the existing 950 square foot office to a single family dwelling. A 55 square foot addition would be added at the rear of the existing structure for a total of 1,005 square feet, as well as construction of a 1,000 square foot garage. And the applicant has noted he does have the intent to eventually have this garage converted to an ADU, although there is no water available to do so today. In the CO district, a use permit is required for conversion of the single family for single family dwelling uses, which is why the zoning administrator is seeing this item today. And I have they're both a site and floor plan graphic here, but both the existing on the left and the proposed on the right. And I have a more zoomed in view on the subsequent slides. And so this has been rotated counterclockwise. And so that's the existing condition. As you can see, it's an existing office with its front entrance along El Dorado Street on the right, and then parking at the rear at Davis Lane. And this would be the proposed configuration. So a fairly large garage with a garage door opening to Davis Lane. And then this would be a 2-bedroom, 1-bath dwelling at which fronts El Dorado Street, of course. And then we don't typically look at elevations in detail for use permits, but I just wanted to note the design of the garage itself, which is on the right, has been designed to match the existing structure. And so they're both stucco clad flat roof structures. And so generally they would match. So in order to approve the use permit application, the zoning administrator has to make 3 findings. The first is that the proposed use is in accord with the objectives of this chapter, the zoning ordinance, and the purposes of the zone, the commercial office district. And as I mentioned, single-family dwelling uses are permitted by use permit. The proposal includes the required parking for single-family dwellings, which is the minimum requirement is 1 covered parking space and 1 uncovered. They meet that requirement with 2 covered parking spaces with additional room inside of that garage structure. Additionally, that garage structure meets the development standards, including the setback requirement and height limit. The second finding is that the proposed use and the proposed conditions under which it would be operated or maintained will be consistent with the general plan, will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare of persons residing or working in or adjacent to the neighborhood of such use, will not be detrimental to properties or improvements in the vicinity or to the general welfare of the city. Staff was able to make this finding. The commercial general plan land use does allow residential uses with a density of up to 30 units per acre. This site could allow up to 4 units. Only 1 is proposed here today. And then, as I mentioned, parking is provided. And the third finding is that the proposed use will comply with any specific conditions required for that use. The city's typical standards are required. And then there's an additional condition that was added that this approval does not constitute an approval of an ADU, and that the applicant shall remove reference to the ADU from this final, excuse me, I think it was just for the architectural review permit and building permits required for this project. So with that, staff's recommendation is to approve the use permit. I'm available for questions. The project architect is here as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Excellent staff report. And it was clearly noted that the proposed garage is intended to be converted into an ADU upon water availability. Just looking ahead to that, would the ADU require additional parking at the site?
Under the current state and city ADU regulations, no additional parking is required for conversion of this building.
Great. Thank you. I believe that's the only question I have at this time. Is the applicant present? Would they like to make a presentation?
Good afternoon. My name is Safwat Malik. I am the architect and applicant for this project. And I don't really have anything to add to staff report, but I'm available to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you. I don't believe I have any questions at this time. And with that, I'll open the meeting up for public comment on this item. Ms. Barrera, anyone join us online yet?
There are 2 attendees online. However, I see no hands raised.
If we can just remind them how they can participate in today's meeting.
Sure. Once again, information on participating in this meeting and providing public comment, including remotely by Zoom or telephone, is on this meeting's agenda, which is online at isearchmonterey.org. Today's ZA webinar ID is 160-666-5889. And I still see no hands raised.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public in the chambers who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none. Thank you. I will close the public hearing. I have read the staff report and the draft resolution, studied the plans, and I agree with the staff recommendations and find that the proposal is consistent with the objectives of the zoning ordinance and the purposes of the CO zone, and that the CO zone allows residential development with the approval of a use permit and all the applicable development standards are met. I also find the proposal to be consistent with the site's commercial land use designation, as the project proposes residential development consistent with the allowed density of up to 30 dwelling units per acre. and will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare of persons residing or working in or adjacent to the neighborhood or the general welfare of the city. And of course, the proposal is subject to the conditions of approval as noted in the draft resolution. I will note one edit to the draft resolution, and that condition 4F should be renumbered as a standalone condition number 5. That is just a typographical correction to be made. And with that, the zoning administrator approves use permit application UP 240014. I will remind the public that decisions of the zoning administrator are appealable to the planning commission within 10 days of this meeting. Applications for appeal can be found at the planning office. With there being no further business, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.